All right, let's talk about butter. You know, that creamy, solid block of fat that melts all over your toast? Well, what if I told you that you could get it in a powder? Yep, a fine, dry powder that you can keep in your pantry for, like, years. It sounds completely bonkers, so today we're going to figure out exactly how it's done.
I mean, really, how do you go from this to this? How do you take something that's greasy, that's defined by its melty, fatty nature, and somehow turn it into a dry, free-flowing powder? It kind of feels like it breaks all the laws of cooking, right?
And while it absolutely seems like some kind of kitchen wizardry, it's not magic at all. It's just some seriously clever food science. So let's dive in and unpack the science behind this amazing transformation. Okay, so first things first. Why would anybody even want to turn butter into a powder? Well, it turns out this whole invention came about to solve some really common and kind of annoying problems with the regular stuff.
Oh yeah, you've been there. You leave the butter dish out and suddenly it's a greasy puddle. Or you need to bake, but it's a frozen brick in the fridge. And taking it camping or trying to store it long term? Just forget it. It's heavy, it's messy, and it has to stay cold. Butter powder was basically invented to fix all of that.
So what's the secret? You might be thinking, well, they just, take the water out. But it's actually not that simple. The real secret starts with a very surprising scientific twist.
Okay, so here's the mind bender. The word dehydrate means to remove water. Simple enough. But here's the thing. Pure fat doesn't really have any water in it to remove. So that's the big puzzle. If you can't technically dehydrate the fat, how in the world do you make it dry?
Well, the answer is you get some help. The secret is using something called carrier agents. Think of them as little life rafts for the butterfat. They use things like non-fat milk solids or a protein called sodium caseinate. When they're all blended together, these carriers give the tiny droplets of butterfat a solid structure to cling to, essentially wrapping each one in a tiny, dry shell.
And this chart, this shows you everything. Just look at the moisture. It goes from about 16% in regular butter all the way down to less than 4%. But check out the protein. It jumps from almost nothing to over 11%. That's all those carrier agents, the milk solids, doing their job and turning that fat into a powder.
So how does this actually happen? Well, I'll tell you this much. It's not something you can do at home with a food dehydrator. This is a seriously high-tech industrial process.
The most common method by far is called spray drying. First, they make this liquid mixture, an emulsion, of melted butter, those carrier agents, and a little water. Then, and this is the awesome part, they atomize it. They spray this liquid as a superfine mist into a giant hot chamber, and poof, the water evaporates instantly, leaving behind these perfectly formed little particles of butter powder.
Now, spray drying is the king because it's fast and it's cost-effective. But there is another way, freeze drying. This one is way slower and more expensive. It involves freezing the butter mixture and using a vacuum to turn the ice directly into vapor. So why do it? Well, it's a much gentler process, which means it preserves even more of that rich, delicate butter flavor. So, okay, we've made the butter powder. Now, who's actually using this stuff? The answer might surprise you. It's a lot more people than you probably think, and for all sorts of reasons. And here's its superpower. 10 years. An unopened can of butter powder can sit on a shelf, no refrigeration needed, for a decade. This incredible shelf life is exactly why it's a must-have for emergency preppers and anyone who's serious about long-term food storage.
But its appeal is just incredibly broad. Commercial bakers love it for cake mixes because it blends in so easily. Big food manufacturers use it in sauces, soups, even popcorn seasoning. And of course, campers and backpackers are obsessed with it. It's super lightweight, packed with calories, and totally mess-free.
And if you're thinking this is just some weird niche product, get this. In 2022, the global market for butter powder was worth over $2 billion. That's billion with a B. So yeah, this isn't just a pantry oddity, it's a major player in the food industry.
Okay, so let's say you go out and buy a can of this stuff. Now what do you do with it? Well, before you start experimenting, you gotta know the rules, because this powder does not behave like your typical stick of butter.
First up, the big question. What does it taste like? It absolutely has that rich butter flavor, but because of all those extra milk solids we talked about, the carrier agents, it also has this extra milky or creamy taste to it. It's really nice, but it's a little different than fresh butter.
So here's where it's amazing. For baking, you can just toss it right in with your flour. It's fantastic sprinkled on popcorn or steamed veggies. You can stir it into soups and gravies to make them richer. And for camping, oh yeah, it is an absolute game changer.
And now for the big don'ts. And please, listen closely to this. Do not try to fry an egg in this. All those milk solids will just scorch and burn. It won't melt into a lovely golden pool. And for the love of all that is good, do not try to make this at home. Your kitchen dehydrator just isn't built for this kind of thing.
So, what's the final verdict here? Is butter powder this incredible food science miracle that solves all of butter's problems? Or is it just a weird curiosity for diehard campers and preppers? Honestly, with how convenient and versatile it is, the answer is probably somewhere in the middle. What do you think?